Peace be with you. So today I wanted to make a video about mental health. Mental health is one of the most significant diseases of modern society. It is far more prevalent in modern societies than it is in third world countries. So the idea that progress or physical progress somehow improves our lives is actually probably not true given the prevalence of mental health disorders in wealthy nations. Mental health, I consider to be at the intersection of medicine, philosophy, and religion. It is a component of all three and therefore should be addressed from all three perspectives. Now, I gotta admit, I'm not a psychiatrist. I am a physician, but I work mostly in emergency rooms, although I do see a lot of people with anxiety issues and depression and suicidal ideations and so on. So I am not claiming to be an expert in mental health, but I'm no stranger to it either. The approach I want to take to explaining mental health again is more of a philosophical as well as religious approach because I think those two areas or avenues are completely left unexplored by a lot of people through their seeking of the quick solution. So I wanted to just kind of comment on a couple of things in regards to mental health. A lot of times, what is normal, what is actually a normal human state, is diagnosed as mental illness. Not just because doctors overdiagnose it, but because people want to be diagnosed, because having a diagnosis somehow alleviates responsibility for our own behavior. And I'll try to kind of give some examples with talking about mood disorders and anxiety and so on. First, first example I want to bring up is mood disorders. So a lot of times people have terrible behavior and they'll claim they're bipolar or they just have a hard time controlling their anger. And I have to admit I am one of those people. It really takes a lot of effort for me to control my temper, but I have noticed a few patterns in my own personal life that I've noticed in other people as well. So a lot of people who have anger problems don't have anger problems with cops, don't have anger problems with their boss, or at least they are a lot more patient with their boss. They certainly don't have anger problems when they're faced with a bunch of people who they believe that they're going to, hurt them physically. In those times, maybe we can't control ourselves all the way, but we certainly can control ourselves better when our immediate family, parents, especially spouses and children. It is my observation and my personal opinion that the reason why we are a lot less patient with our parents, our spouses, and our children is because the immediate consequences of kind of like, of let's say you pick a fight with five dudes and you're about to get beat down. So you probably want to avoid picking that fight. But when we are around our spouses, especially our parents, who we know will forgive us no matter what, because we learned that through our experience in life, we are a lot less patient, and we say that that is a mental illness. The fact that we are able to control ourselves under different circumstances just shows is a witness, is proof that we are actually not mentally ill, but we are just spoiled and we are unjust. We take our aggression on people who are the least threat to us, where we are going to suffer the least consequences. So we're taking advantage of that. And that is not a mental illness, that is a spiritual illness. This is why God says in the Quran in chapter 17, and God has commanded that you shall serve none but Him, and goodness to your parents. If one or both of your parents reach old age with you, do not say to them as much as oof, nor rebuke them, but address them with respect, and be humble towards them and say, my Lord, please have mercy on them, for they raised me when I was a child. The Quran knows everything that's in our hearts. It really does. It's one of the most significant things I noticed about that book. It really focuses on the shortcomings that all of us experience, and that is one of them. We disrespect our parents because that is where the least consequences are. Our parents, of course, there's some bad parents, and whoever went through that, I'm sorry, but most parents, and even most parents of people who claim that they had bad parents, are actually did so much for them, and are deserving of such respect. But unfortunately, because we are ignorant of the fact, we're just unaware of it. We're not taught the proper things. We take our anger and aggression against people who want the best for us, who are the only ones that are unlikely to truly betray us, and whose only concern is our well-being. So we take it out on them because we know they forgive, and that's the thing. We are also unjust. Like, so, as far as from a male perspective, a lot of people, are not going to treat a person they know that they can defeat physically the same in an argument, in a heated debate, as they would that they know can defeat them physically, meaning, beat them up. Whenever a guy is twice your size and he's a skilled fighter and so on, you are going to be a lot more patient, because you are afraid of immediate consequences. It's just a fact of life. So whoever doesn't treat those who are smaller than them like that, who doesn't behave toward people who are smaller than them as they behave toward people that are bigger than them, and they are unjust. They are zalimun, as the Quran calls these people. And these are the people. These people are the fuel of the fire. These people are fuel of hell, and it is our job to grow up and not be those people. So these this mood disorder, this anger issue, of course. Before I go further, I do want to say some people are truly bipolar. So some people truly have mood disorder that may necessitate medication. I'm not denying that. But these are few and far in between. As far as a bipolar disorder, from what I see in the emergency department, these are just fully functional people that don't have bipolar disorder but have been diagnosed, because DSM-5 allows you to diagnose anybody with anything. I could diagnose myself with just about anything from the DSM-5 manual, depending on where I am with my mood and with my life at that point in time. So I really find the diagnostic utility of DSM-5 to be very low. But again, I am not a psychiatrist, and a lot of psychiatrists are going to disagree with me, so I just wanted to put that out there. That being said, uh, if you are able to control yourself in certain environments and let yourself go in others, then you don't really have a disease. What you have is a spiritual problem. You are spoiled and unjust, and you should fix yourself from a religious perspective by obeying what God says. When we act like that, we are following the steps of the devil. So in the Quran, in chapter 17, verse 61, we are told the personality or persona of the devil and what he is like. So we're told, and when we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, they all prostrated, but the devil did not. Iblis is his name in the Quran. He said, will I prostrate to him whom you have created of dust? So he basically says, this person is inferior to me. And whenever we deny the patience that we expect for ourselves in our interaction with people, whenever we deny them that patience, then we are characterizing the devil. We are behaving like the devil, because through our behavior, we are somehow demonstrating that we see these people as inferior to us, and we are willing to misuse that to our own advantage. And I am guilty of this. I have been guilty of this even ever since I became a Muslim, and it has taken me years and years and years and years of reflection and sincere attempts and efforts to even grow a little bit. And I feel that I'm closer to the goal, but I certainly am not there. And every day, every single day, I think about this because it is such an important part of life. Uh, we can't we just simply cannot allow ourselves to be like that if we are Muslims, and even Christians. If you look at when we talk about humility, that's what it's all about. It's not easy to be humble, and it's not easy to see ourselves for what we truly are. And unless we have true friends telling us who we truly are, then it's really hard to change, because we're just blind to our arrogance and our stupidity and our injustice. So a lot of us who have quote unquote mood disorders, these are just not mood disorders. This is just a spiritual uh, decrepitness. This is spiritual lacking of spiritual morality is what it is. And prayer is, and sincere obedience to God is what needs to be done, and usually not medications. Uh, Also, what I wanted to mention is, I mentioned bipolar disorder before. So there are true people who are truly bipolar, and they actually have a psychiatric condition. But in my experience, the majority of people who I see that are bipolar are actually not bipolar, because humans, we all have good days and bad days. And bipolar people, they just are unable to really control that, and the true manic episodes are very rare. I've seen them very rarely. And true depressive episodes are also very rare. But we all, as human beings, we get happy. Sometimes we have great days, and sometimes we have, terrible days. And this is normal. This is normal. That doesn't mean you're bipolar. It just means you're following normal patterns of human emotions, because you have to feel good and bad. It's just life. And when God teaches us that we are not supposed to indulge in those waves, right? We're not supposed to be more depressed when we are depressed by drinking and listening to sad music, and we're not supposed to be more happy when we're happy by just boasting and stuff. But we're supposed to be grown-ups and eventually grow up and restrain these emotions. God says in the Quran, chapter 57, verses 23 to 24, no evil befalls in the earth nor within your own souls, but it is in a book before we bring it into existence, that you may not grieve over anything that has escaped you, nor be proud over anything that he has given you. And God does not love any arrogant boaster. So that basically says, don't be depressed, super depressed, and don't be super happy. You have to keep some sort of a median, and that requires also, again, that requires effort, contemplation, reflection, and attempts at controlling our emotions. That's what life is about. We animals are controlled by emotions. Human beings are controlled by intellect and higher plane of thinking, and for that we need God, because we need to be taught. Religion is actually taught. These control is taught. It's not inborn. When we are born, you look at little children, they are completely governed by emotion. They can go from super happy to crying their eyes out in a second, and then super happy the next second. So that is a animal-like state that we are expected to grow out of, and actually change into enlightened beings that are governed, that can govern their own emotion and are governed by a higher path. And this is why we need scripture. So since I talked about trying to control these emotions, I also wanted to talk about anxiety a little bit. You know, Anxiety is probably the most prevalent mental health disorder I see. A lot of times it's associated with health, and symptoms are mostly health related: chest pains, shortness of breath, weird neurologic presentations, and so on. Anxiety has a lot to do with not thinking about life. Life is scary. It is very scary, and we are going to die, and our children are going to die, and our parents are going to die, and we are going to get hurt, and we are going to be put in the situations that we are afraid and anxious, and that is simply normal. That is normal. And that is life, and God tells us that that is life, and whether God tells you or not, you can, if you live long enough, you will realize that that is life. That is another emotion that we are expected to master. And again, you master that through prayer and through understanding what God says. So in the verses I've quoted earlier in chapter 57, verses 23 to 24, God says, no evil befalls in the earth nor within your own souls, but it is in a book before we bring it into existence. So it is destiny. What you decide, any decision you decide, has an outcome attached to it. So it's already in a book. Your decisions do matter, but for every decision there's an outcome that's already been written, so that you may not grieve over anything that has escaped you. If you obey God and bad things happen to you, don't grieve. God tells you, hey, don't grieve, don't be anxious about it. This is God's will. The only time you should grieve is if you disobey God. You do those drugs, and now you're a crack addict. Then you can go ahead and grieve because you've destroyed yourself, or you are destroying yourself. You should probably go and save yourself. Uh, Nor be exultant of what He has given you. So that is pride. You know, and if you allow yourself to be defined by your persona that you have developed over the years, by your gold chains and fancy cars and fancy house, and or your muscles or your power or prowess, that's all going to fade one day, and you are going to lose your identity. The only time you cannot lose your identity is if you grow into what God wants you to be, and that you can stay throughout your life. So understanding the purpose of life, understanding where your efforts should be, decreases anxiety, because the fact is, we are lied to and we are marketed a life that is not a natural life. What we are suffering from, all of us, is a consequence of a society that is marketed to us. We are told from a young age what will bring us happiness, what success is, and that's all false. All of it is false. Not just part of it, all of it is false. We are sold sins as virtues. We are sold the degradation of culture, the decrepit behavior as virtues. And once we, waste our life on that, then we realize we have wasted our life, and inevitably depression and anxiety kick in. And there's a lot of problems with that. Uh, Ultimately, I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of diseases or mental health diseases, what we consider diseases, are normal states that are generated through our misunderstanding of the purpose of life and are being victims of marketing of culture and behaviors that are not natural to us. We live in an unnatural environment, and we live unnatural lives. And everything that God forbids, that says that brings us destruction, we are told by society now that it is valuable. And the consequence of that is mental health disorders, which we see are so prevalent in the Western world. The only way out of this is not drugs. Yeah, I can give you Xanax, I can give you Adderall, I can give you, antidepressants, but that's not addressing the root cause of the problem. Why are you depressed? What are you missing from life? What are you imagining life should be like? Why are you anxious? What are you afraid of? What have you missed? Why are you angry? Why do you give yourself the right to be angry? We all have these problems, all of us. Don't think you're by yourself, because every single person, the functional and the non-functional, all of them are anxious. All of them are depressed sometimes, all of them. A small minority of people go outside the bounds of normal, and these are truly clinically sick people, and that's fine. But again, these people are few and far in between from what I've seen. A lot of this is self-inflicted by not understanding what life is supposed to be about, by not turning to God, or at least trying to understand what God wants from you and what God is telling you and what God is explaining life like to you. It's stubbornness. It is stubbornness, thinking that you have life figured out and not really thinking about anything else, and then wondering what's going wrong. Why am I like this? Why do I feel like this? Well, you don't have life figured out. We're constantly lied to, and this includes mental health and what mental health is, much less on how to fix it. So it is my sincere advice to people to skip the shortcuts. You probably don't need medications. Very few people are truly mentally ill, but understand that you are spiritually deficient. And if you claim call yourself a Muslim, especially, because these are the only people that I can maybe convince to fast and pray and read the Quran. You should do that. You really should do that, because these are the tools to your salvation, not only in this life, but in the next. You can literally train yourself by proper thinking and proper behavior to grow out of this misery and actually enjoy your life without the depravity until you die and meet God. So that's it.